The New York Jets, they pull off the trade for Devante Adams. Unbelievable. After a tough loss last night against the Buffalo Bills, 23-20, team falls to 2-4. And sure enough, we get another Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. The New York Jets trade for star wide receiver from the Raiders, Devante Adams, for a conditional third-round pick that can turn into a second-round pick depending on what happens in his performance this year. The Jets pick up the remaining salary for Devante Adams, and this team just continues to do these moves and make news for all of us to react to. This is the Gangs All Here live reaction show to the Devante Adams trade news. The Jets and Aaron Rodgers get their old friend back in Devante Adams, bringing him back, reuniting these two for this quarterback wide receiver duo. We're going to get Brian Costello coming on here at 11. Brandon London's going to join here, former NFL wide receiver. He's going to come on here and discuss what's going on, his reaction to this trade, why the Jets decided to make this move right now at this moment. My initial reaction right now is the Jets decided to make this move because it clearly wasn't working out with Mike Williams, right? I mean, we saw the offense look better last night. Two 100-yard receiving performances from Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard, and yet still he can't seem to get on the same page with Mike Williams. But again, you could ask yourself, why are the Jets making this move right now for Devante Adams, a guy that had a hamstring injury with the Raiders, clearly disgruntled with the quarterback situation, but now he gets to reunite with his former Green Bay Packers friend and Aaron Rodgers. The Jets make this move. It's an all-in move. It's an all-in move for Woody Johnson. It's an all-in move for Joe Douglas. They are going all in on the Aaron Rodgers experience, no matter what. The Jets, let's not forget, they had a chance to go 3-3 last night with a win against the Buffalo Bills, tie for the lead in the AFC East. They lose that game last night because of so many other different things going on. It's been a whirlwind of news right now, and I can't believe we're at this moment right now with the Jets trading for Devante Adams. We're going to bring in my guy, Brandon London. He's going to talk about this with me, get his reaction. Brandon, what's going on, man? The Jets never stop making news, man.
It's first thing I thought, Ryan, can I jump straight into this? First thing I thought, and I encourage you guys to look at New York Post Sports Instagram and TikTok later because we just did an initial reaction. And I thought, Aaron Rodgers connects with Allen Lazard on a Hail Mary last night, and they just threw a Hail Mary to save the season at 2-4. Ambassador Woody, I'll call him Ambassador, they're all in. They're all in. So you can be as frustrated as you want as a fan base. I know it hasn't started clicking, especially with the expectations being as high as they are. I know you can say whatever you want about the owner, the curse of the franchise, but at least they just showed y'all that at least that we're going all the way in. We're going absolutely all the way in by getting this guy, his guy that in 108 games, 622 receptions, over 7,500 yards, 69 touchdowns, all pro. His attitude, you have no choice but to have a good attitude stepping into that locker room. He has no choice but to be received well by the defense, by teammates. Mike Williams, Lazard. Mike Williams, be happy you're still there. I thought you were going to get traded in that package. They're trying to save the season, but does this clean up the offensive line and the penalties? Does this trade do that?
It's remarkable. I mean, we get last week, we react to Woody Johnson firing Robert Saleh. We talked about that. Why make this move now? Only 4 games into the season, 5 games in the season, I should say. And he says this team can be better. You're saying it's the most talented team you've ever seen the Jets put together in your 20 years as ownership. This puts them even more up in the talent wise. But again, I think you make some great points. It doesn't fix your offensive line issues. It doesn't fix how you stop the run. It doesn't stop the penalties issue and the undisciplined nature. It doesn't stop your field goal from missing 2 big field goals last night. I mean, if a field goal kicker hits a couple field goals this year, Brandon, this team is 4-2 right now. Yeah. And you'd probably be like, man, the Jets are just adding that cherry on top to a 4-2 team, and they're looking like they're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC. But right now, it's anything but that. So it's curious the PR shift here from Joe Douglas and Woody Johnson, like, oh, let's forget about that loss last night and let's just shift our focus to we're the Jets. We're going all in. We're just going to keep making news, and we're just going to go for Devante Adams, go all in on the Aaron Rodgers experience.
Yeah, it's just he's trying to re-kick the culture. He's trying to restart the culture. It's like when I haven't cut grass in forever, but when you're trying to prime it like the weed whacker, and you're like, da, 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 da. Nothing has gotten this team going when it comes to getting them motivated enough to be thinking more we than me. Any player can go, and our Jets beat writer Brian Costello does a great job reporting what goes into some of the things that players are saying in the locker room, and we're able to decipher that and be like, the player in me is like, he's taking a shot at person X, person Y, but then the media side of me just wants to retweet and be like, oh. But what this is doing now, if you're Sauce, you're DJ Reed, Quinton Williams, Quincy Williams, you guys got to look at this now where it's like, all right, what they're doing, this is every year we say the teams aren't going to be the same the following year. It's really not going to be the same the following year for this team, because you have just now went all the way in. There's people's deals that's coming up, or like a CJ Mosley contract. That's a lot of money to add this money to the books. They're going all the way in. So if you're one of those players, you got to think about it like this. My Jets window, my time here is really coming to an end, or coming closer to an end. Hey, boys, let's win one for the Gipper. Let's all band together and come together. I don't care, Sauce, if you're still playing for Salah. I don't care if y'all playing for your kids. You got to find something within right now at 2-4, and you see what ownership is doing, bringing in the guy, not a guy. They're bringing in the guy, Garrett Wilson. They're bringing in they're giving you a Batman so you can learn how to be Batman.
I think that's what's interesting here, Brandon. So what's interesting, and by the way, Costello's going to join us at 11 here to talk more about this Devante Adams trade. What I think is more interesting about this move is that you saw last night the offense has been the theme, right? Like, because Nathaniel Hackett was demoted from offensive coordinator. Play calling duties now went to Todd Downing last night. You saw a ton of more motion. The Jets were able to get the ball in Breece Hall's hand in space. He had over 100 yards rushing last night. Garrett Wilson went for 8 receptions, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Nearly had a second touchdown if he doesn't drop it, but he got walloped in the end zone. And Allen Lazard went for 6, 114 and a touchdown, caught the Hail Mary. How much more can this offense possibly – I understand there's points left on the field because the Jets are 1-4 in the red zone. So it does make you wonder, does Devante solve some of those problems? But for you, Brandon, when you're looking at this offensively, schematically, there's just not enough targets to go around in the room right now. When you talk about Wilson, Lazard, and now Devante Adams, I feel like Mike Williams is the guy that's going to be left off the boat here.
Yeah, he and Lazard are going to have to fight for rocks. Like, at the end of this is a business. And there's a lot of people whose jobs are on the line here. There's a lot, and it trickles down. Like, as a coach's kid, I talk about Robert Saleh getting fired, but you never want to see that, because it's like, now you got to pick up move schools, But these people don't care. You making X amount of millions of dollars a year. Try picking up and moving when you work a grocery store clerk. So that's neither here nor there. You two are going to have to battle it out. It's like my favorite scene in the first Batman movie when the Joker is like, we're having tryouts, and he breaks the pool stick, and he's like, 2 dudes, you better fight it out so you can join our gang. That's what you and Mike Williams and Allen Lazard is going to have to do here. Mike Williams at times has been one of my favorite receivers in the league, but at times within this offense, he is just late with the eyes, late with getting his head around, late with just being in that spot for a quarterback, to where it's like, all you got to do is be in that spot, and he's going to deliver you that hot sauce, that Polynesian sauce at Chick-fil-A. It's going to give you that gold. Allen Lazard is in the spot, but you lead the league in drops. So I'm giving you – so now you two, I don't know how many balls you're going to get now. Garrett Wilson – you could still get 8, because this Devante Adams guy is going to command all this coverage and attention. But sometimes, even when he's doubled and he's got a couple people on him, I still got to throw it up to him, because I brought my boy in here. I got to keep my boy happy. And this is who I know I've had success with, to where if I'm going to gamble, I'm going to gamble with him.
Yeah, they're taking the gamble here. And for more on this Jets trade, now we're going to bring in our guy, Brian Costello, Jets beat writer. Kaz, this team does not know how to stop making news for us. I know you were at the game last night. We had last Tuesday with the Robert Saleh news, and we're back again with the Jets making the trade for Devante Adams. How you doing, man?
Tired.
Cause they get more retweets than the Colorado Buffaloes with Coach Prime, man. We're always it's a reality show, but Cause, I think this, and jump in here. I honestly, if I was a player in that locker room, I would look at it like I got to get my ish together now because they're going all the way in on this season to try and save this season. Do I sound crazy for saying that?
I guess some guys could feel that way. I'm curious how the locker room reacts. It feels like Aaron getting more of what Aaron wants, which, I don't think they love in the locker room. So I'm curious how they react. And, I was not all in on this trade. I've talked about it before, Ryan. I don't see how this fixes things. Maybe it fixes things in the fourth quarter when they're driving down the field. He can throw to Devante now instead of Mike Williams. But, I think the problems run deeper than another receiver. He's still a good player. He's not what he was at 31 years old. So I'm curious to see how it all works out. But the Jets are flailing right now, trying to do something, and Woody Johnson's throwing everything he can against the wall to try to save the season.
Yeah, Cuz, I think the big thing I was asking Brandon is, you had two great performances, if we're being honest, from Lazard catching the Hail Mary, going for over 100 yards, 6 catches. You had Garrett Wilson go for 8, over 100 yards, a touchdown, possibly a second one. Where is there more production for this offense? I wonder, is it coming down to now the red zone, 1 for 4 last night again? You don't score as much as you would have liked to in the red zone area. Does Devante help that for the Jets and Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, maybe. It was a weird red zone game, right? They scored the touchdown and got called back for holding with Braylon Allen. Garrett maybe should catch that ball, but Taylor Rapp I thought he made a really nice play hitting it and knocked the ball loose. So there were chances there. It wasn't like they were completely getting the red zone and just sputtering. I thought it wasn't as bad as the numbers indicated. But yeah, I think to me, Ryan, it's more these last 2-minute situations, right? You think about the last 2 games, how they ended. In London, it ends with an interception on a throw to Mike Williams where it doesn't look like Mike Williams is looking for the ball.
Yep.
Last night, it ends with an interception where Mike Williams slips, and also after the game, Rodgers basically said he ran the wrong route. Yep. So, it's that Mike Williams thing is not working, and so I feel like Devante kind of slides in, and he's better than Mike Williams. So that's where the upgrade is, and I think he's just another target for Aaron that he feels comfortable with, because clearly – he doesn't feel comfortable with Mike Williams, and he and Garrett, I think, are still a work in progress, getting better. I thought this week was better, but so it's makes I think it's gonna make the quarterback a little more comfortable.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, because Kaz, I was thinking of this move where yes, one player coming in is not going to stop the penalties. He's not going to help out too much when it comes to the offensive line. Maybe Aaron feels comfortable, quick game, getting the ball out to Devante because he can get separation within routes and stuff. But I also look at it as something where it's like maybe a big play from Devante Adams kind of sparks something, ignites something within that team, man. Like you don't see guys. With the Garrett Wilson touchdown, you saw the high fives and things of that nature. But when things start getting bad, when things start turning bad, there is no one that can rise above the X's and O's on that offense and make the play. So I'm thinking maybe he could help out by bringing him in to like ignite, get the motivation, the inspiration going. But at the end of the day, these penalties are just killing them. And there's nothing a wide receiver can do to help stop these penalties. So it's like, I'm all in on the move, Kaz, but at the end of the day, this is going to have to be on the senior leadership. These are the guys, he's going to have to come in and be a voice to this team right away to clean these penalties and these things that's just absolutely killing this team.
Yeah, I think he has to be careful there, Brandon, honestly. I think he's walking into a situation halfway through the season. I wouldn't want to hear from him. He hasn't been there all training camp and stuff. And I do think he has to fight the idea that he's Aaron's boy. and Aaron brought him in to fix things. I think, I do think there's some people in that locker room that are kind of like, waiting for Aaron to produce the results that they expected, because they've gotten all the other parts of Aaron Rodgers and they haven't really got the results. And he wanted Alan Lazard, who didn't have a great year last year. He's having a much better year this year. But I do think some people are like, why is he always throwing Alan Lazard? He brought in Randall Cobb last year. That didn't work. He brought in the offensive lineman. I'm blanking on the tackle. That didn't work. Obviously Nathaniel Hackett is here because of him. That didn't work. So his track record isn't great as a GM. So I do think, Davante is going to have to kind of come in here and earn his keep first before he starts speaking out about penalties and things like that. The penalties last night, I've watched half the game back. I didn't get to watch the second half yet. And I know the second half was when the flags really started flying. But some of the penalties were atrocious, I thought. So, the ones that aren't penalties, I don't think you can go crazy about. And, that was part of my argument with Salo, is I don't think penalties are on coaches other than plays after things that happen after the whistle. I think that's discipline. I don't really think the other stuff is. So, there's still a lot to clean up. But, the reality is they've lost 3 games by 10 points here. So they're close. And we'll see if Davante gives them a little push over the edge.
My only pushback on that is which player in that locker room has had more success than Devante Adams. So if Devante Adams says jump, you better jump. You better say
Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Aaron outside, but let's say
I would argue Tyron,
has had more success than Devante Adams.
Tyron Smith's been pretty freaking good.
Oh, Tyron Smith.
Yeah, Tyron Smith's made the Pro Bowl like every single year he's played in the NFL. So, yeah, that's like, splitting hairs between him and Devante, but Tyron Smith can speak to it. So I do think I did think Devante can get there eventually. I just don't think he can walk in the door this week and start barking at people. Like he's got to earn some. He's got to do something for the Jets first.
So what's interesting is, again, now we're talking about Todd Downing's offense here. Now this is no longer Nathaniel Hackett's offense. I know it's still similar concepts, but Kaz, you're
still
first
the same plays.
Right,
it's
still the same plays, but there was more motion last night. I thought they were creative in the run game a little bit more. They used Breece Hall as a receiver more last night. I thought that the offense looked a lot better compared to the weeks prior, because that was a lot of the complaints heading into this week. How is the offense going to look with now new play caller and Todd Downing? I think ultimately, though, the question here is, and you bring up a great point, Kaz, this Jets team's lost 10 points in the last 3 weeks. If Greg Zuerlein hits 3 field goals in the last 3 weeks, the Jets are looking at 4-2 right now. And this is the cherry on top that we're talking about with Devante Adams for this offense. Again, I can understand your point of perspective. Like, what does this really improve? It doesn't improve the offensive line. It doesn't improve stopping the run. And it doesn't improve taking too many penalties and missing field goals. But Kaz, I don't know, man. Like, do you think the Jets still have a chance here to be able to turn this season around?
I do. I think they're going to go 10-7 and make the playoffs. I've said that every week. I said it last week when Saleh if Saleh was the coach, they're going to go 10-7. Ulbrich, the coach, they're going to go 10-7. They're a 10-7 team. The schedule eases up in a few weeks. After that Texans game, there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule. So I do think they can go 8-3 here the rest of the way. They're a good enough team. They're not a great team, but guess what? There's not many great teams in the NFL. So they can, they can finish 10-7 and make the playoffs. They're right in the middle of the pack with a bunch of other teams. And I think they'll play better than they played. I didn't think they played poorly last night. The penalties obviously killed them and a few other things, but they'll play better than they played against Denver and Minnesota early on in Minnesota. Down the stretch, they'll probably have a few more clunkers, 1 or 2, but I do think they're going to win some games here. There's just too much talent on this team not to.
And Ryan, you hope that bringing Adams in kind of helps Todd Downing going forward as well, because you gave him his props on what he was able to do with the different motions and giving different looks. But there's a lot of analysts and scouts that are sitting there and they're looking for tendencies. They're going to do their due diligence and their homework on what he likes to do, and they're going to scheme up and they're going to have counter moves. Now, bringing in a dominant receiver like this, and hopefully he still has that juice left, that kind of helps go above and beyond the X's and O's from time to time, as long as it's not something where he's being pressured to having the scheme for Devante Adams all the time. So I think Todd Downing now, here's that piece for him to kind of take this offense to another level, but it's just something that will remain seen to be done. They played a good game yesterday, have to finish. Got to finish.
Yeah. So I think for both you guys, Kaz and Brandon, the question here still is about with Davante. First off, Kaz, do you think he plays this weekend against the Steelers?
I don't know. I don't know where his hamstring is at, Ryan. You know, I mean, he's missing time with the hamstring. He's having a physical right now in the building.
He's in the building already?
Sure. Oh. Yeah. This was done yesterday, I think. So he took a red-eye flight last night. He's in the building getting a physical. So yeah, this wasn't like it was, done because of last night. I don't think this was already, the parameters were in place. So we'll see. I think he could play. We've seen guys play. I don't think he can play 70 snaps, right? Well, mainly because he hasn't played in a few weeks. I think they're going to have to ease him in. He's 31 years old, but I think he can have a role Sunday night for sure. He knows the offense. It's what he ran in Green Bay. So he's just going to need to get up to speed. So I could see him playing Sunday night. I mean, here, one other point, Ryan, where, I was talking about this with somebody last night. Like Tyron Smith has not had a great season so far. He had a bad game last night. And, when you go back to when the Jets signed him, everyone crazy. It was like, well, why are the Jets the only team doing this? Yeah. Right? Like, why could they get him for $6 million guaranteed, or whatever it was? It was all incentives, but based on playing games. The rest of the league usually tells you on these guys. Like, I remember last year, why was Dalvin Cook available in August? We saw. So I'm kind of curious. Like, there's a little more complicated here with Davante because there's draft pick compensation. There's the money. So it's not quite the same as free agency. But I feel like there wasn't a huge market for Devante Adams. So, I just would caution he might not be what he was 4 years ago in Green Bay.
Yeah, just an update on the conditions that we got from Adam Schefter. The conditional third-round pick can become a second-round pick if any of the following happens. Adams must be a first or second-team All-Pro this year, or he's on the active roster for the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. So lofty expectations for Devante Adams the rest of the year in order for that third-round pick to become a second.
And Ryan, going back to if he could play this week, obviously, like we said, it comes down to the hamstring, which I feel as though is him making business decisions while being out there in Vegas, not wanting to get hurt to mess up his trade valuability. But when you come in to a new offense like that, then they'll have a package for you. Your plays. They may have 8 to 10, 5 to 10 plays for him. So he just studies his plays. And then, like you said, the terminology is pretty much the same since he's already been, in this offense before when it comes to the verbiage and all that. So he'll have his plays if he's good to go that he feels comfortable with, that he and Rodgers can communicate and do X, Y, Z off of. But hopefully he gets out there and show something because they need that last little spark on offense.
Kaz, and this is my last thing for you before I let you go, man. Do you think that this could upset Garrett Wilson at all in this offense?
Yes, I do. I felt like Garrett's been in a fragile place all season. I didn't talk to him after last night's game, so maybe I thought last night's game was better. They used him better than they had. They took a deep shot to him, and one that should have been pass interference was nullified by the other penalty. They got him the ball in some different situations. They went to in the red zone, but Garrett said it to Bart Scott a couple weeks ago. Like he didn't feel like he's running the routes that he ran in the past. I saw Seth Walder from ESPN put out a story where he analyzed the route usage and like Garrett hadn't run a post all season, which was like his bread and butter. And so, yeah, Garrett's in a tough place right now, right? He's in his third year. He's eligible for a payday after this season. I'm sure he's thinking about it. And having Davante there, he's been targeted more than anybody in the NFL. I think I saw that stat last night. So he can't go by the targets, but his targets are going to drop now. You see it. Lazard gets a lot of attention from Rodgers, right? Well, Davante's going to get even more. So where does that leave Garrett? And so we'll see. But I do think it could upset him.
Man, he better not be selfish like that. He better. Ocho Cinco took the back seat to Terrell Owens. Like you have to have two receivers in this league. T. Higgins is a wide receiver one in any other team, but he plays with Jamar Chase. You have to, if this is going to benefit Garrett Wilson, I feel like, or at least it should, because now that draws some of the attention off of him. If I'm a safety, who am I shading over to? Garrett Wilson, or when you got Alan Lazard or Mike Williams? No, all my attention is going to go over there to Garrett Wilson. But now you put Devante Adams in there. I'm that safety. I kind of have to play honest now instead of shading over to one of those guys, or I'm going to shade over to Devante Adams before Garrett Wilson. And now he gets those targets that Alan Lazard was getting. So I hope this is one of those things where I hope they not so much reinvent the offense, but listen to Garrett Wilson, listen to his frustrations on, hey, let's go back to some of my bread and butters and add this into the offense. I'll still run what you want me to run, but can I get some of these? Can you throw some extra chicken nuggets up in that bag? And then, when it comes to Devante Adams, he is who he is. Like, as a wide receiver, and he step into the room, you can't necessarily be like, oh, I'm better than this guy. We're talking about Devante Adams. So hopefully it's just something that's been put back on Aaron Rodgers. You now have to distribute the ball evenly or whatever, get guys involved and make sure everyone's happy. But at the end of the day, I hope I hope he looks at this as more of an opportunity than what it could, he's here, I'm not going to get paid. Because again, if he's balling out, he keeps scoring touchdowns. That kid's talented. He's a top 6, top 8 talent in the league when it comes to wide receivers.
Guys, ultimately, for Aaron Rodgers, feels like there's no more excuses here. How are you feel? Like, final thoughts on that and just where this Jets team stands now heading into Pittsburgh week?
Yeah, I know. I think, I always say there's a bullseye in an organization, and it was on Saleh, and Saleh got fired. And I think the bullseye is now on Rodgers. Eventually it'll go to Joe Douglas, but I think right now it's on Rodgers, and he's got to produce. They brought him here to win football games, and right now they're 2-4, and they were 3-3 last year with Zach Wilson. So he's got to start winning some games and pulling out some magic. He had a little bit of magic last night with the Hail Mary, but he's got to do something in the last 2 minutes of these games to win. Most NFL games come down to the fourth quarter, and the Jets are losing in the fourth quarter right now. So they've given him what he wanted. He got Devante. Now go out and do it.
Well said, Kaz. Thank you, man. I appreciate you. We're looking forward to your coverage all week, man.
Yeah, he's right about that magic, man. It's like we're in Halloween now, and it's like one of the movies like Hocus Pocus when they got the wand, and he's wanding. Aaron Rodgers is slicing and dealing, and we've seen it. We've seen the highlights. We've seen the good plays, and then in that fourth quarter, just that last drive, they're putting the wand back in your hand. And it's like bippity boppity boop, and nothing's coming out of the wand. And that's what I'm afraid of, because it's like, all right, you can bring in Randy Moss.
Yeah.
If the juice ain't there, Ryan, the juice just isn't there. And this is it. In the words of Michael Jordan, this is the last dance. This is it. What else? What other excuses are there? And Kaz did a great job breaking that down. He brought the homies with him. Randall Cobb, coordinator, Lazard, tackle. They all haven't really. They're not panning out. You know. So.
Well, Brandon, thank you, man. We appreciate you for hopping on for a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit more with Frankie Vini from this, but Brandon, looking forward to your coverage all weekend reaction on this Devante Adams trade as we get through it, man.
This is the Real Housewives of Florham Park. Like, this is really a reality TV show.
As our boss Chris Shaw says, they're the lovable losers because they're fun to watch and see the news. Unlike your Giants team, which is really boring to watch.
Hey, I'll take boring. I'll take boring over this madness.
No,
any day.
Danny Dimes, that's rough, man. Good luck with that. Talk to you, Brandon.
All right, man.
All right, so like I said, I got my guy, Frankie Vini. We're going to talk to him from U Stadium. He talked to me last night about the Jets game, and now I get to talk with him about this Davante Adams trade. We can't believe it finally happened, Frankie. And good morning, sir.
Season's back on, baby. We're back. Where are the odds at? We're back. Has Vegas given us better odds now to make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl? Are we back?
I have no idea. Do you know?
I don't know. I guarantee the odds have not changed one bit, though. No, but you know what, Rye? Listen, this move doesn't make much sense, but I'm a fan of it. You know why? Because nothing makes sense with the New York Jets. So if it doesn't make sense, maybe it's a good thing. But listen, no, in all reality, great job with this live. Thanks for having me on, by the way. Listen, the Jets, like Kaz was just saying, this was done, and Jordan Schultz just reported on it 5 minutes ago. This was done before last night's game. This was already in motion. That's why last night's game really pissed me off. I was out of it last night. I was shell-shocked, like I saw a ghost. However, listen, this team, we're trying to win. We're trying to get to the Super Bowl. We're trying to make the playoffs. Davante Adams gives you a better shot than not having Davante Adams. Davante Adams is the only player that Rodgers and Hackett, their little system, has elevated into a superstar player. Davante Adams is one of the best receivers in the game and is somebody that I think is going to take a lot of Lazard's looks away. So, to what you were discussing about Garrett Wilson, I think this affects Lazard's looks more than Garrett's. I think it's going to be the Garrett Adams show. And listen, Lazard's been playing pretty well, though, hasn't he? I mean, his stats
last night was another good game for him.
Yeah. His stats are a little bit swayed because of that Hail Mary last night. So you're going to look at his stats and say, oh, he had over 110 yards, blah, blah, blah. But, 50 of those came on a Hail Mary. But listen, man, it doesn't solve all the problems, but it's something they've wanted to do. It's something that could spark the team. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense at this point because we're 2-4, but they didn't do this when they were 2-4. They did this when they were 2-3. So can you really blame them?
No, you can't. I mean, listen, Frankie, I've thought about it, and I think a lot of fans are hopefully coming on the bright side here a little bit. Listen, Greg Zuerlein hits 3 field goals. This team's 4-2. Bottom line. 3 field goals. This team is 4-2 instead of 2-4, and they're clear cut first place right now in the NFL. I think this does solve something that, and I asked this to Kaz, and he said maybe. I think it's a little more it's more overstated than it needs to be. Is the Jets are bad in the red zone. Like their offense in the red zone, it's good between the 20s, and that's something you're going to see when you watch the film. It's good between the 20s. It's just been weird in the red zone. We talked about that first down play call where Rodgers hits, I think, Moses in the head or the tight end, and he's trying to hit Conklin. He hits the defender in the face, and it's like, what the hell was that? There's a first down play and 1st and goal. Why aren't we running the ball with Braylon Allen or Breece Hall? They had the drop touchdown from Garrett Wilson. Great play by Taylor Rapp knocking it out of his hands. And then you had, the holding penalty for Braylon Allen's touchdown brought back. So that's 3 possible touchdowns right there. It's just they continually find these ways when they get into the red zone and they become frustrated as an offense. And I think Davante brings such an immediate impact because I'm telling you, go watch the film. Davante is the best in the NFL. Still the best in the NFL when it comes to the red zone. I'm telling you, watch one-on-one matchups in the red zone. Davante loves to work defenders. He's going to give you that little hee left or right, and he's just going to go. I'm telling you, he jukes the hell. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL when it comes to one-on-one and a defender is playing press man coverage on you. He just finds that separation. And Garrett Wilson can learn some things from him because Davante played basketball hoops in college, and I did a really cool breakdown tape when I was on my ESPN days. This guy has perfected the art of getting open in the red zone. It's going to be a huge X factor for this Jets offense. And if they can continue to find ways to get Breece and Garrett the ball between the 20s, Davante can be that X factor in the red zone, and you really can have another element to this offense that you've been lacking.
You're 100% right. And I was looking at some stuff last night when I had some time. I went to sleep super late, but I was looking at some stuff late. Devante Adams, like you're saying, is very good at finding soft zones and finding openings in space. Aaron and the tight end usually don't work that much together. Even in his days in Green Bay, Aaron likes to go to his wide receivers, likes to get those guys across the middle, likes to find those guys in soft coverages. Devante is great at that. So to your credit, you are right. I think Devante and even Lazard now, you almost have like in the red zone 2 potential tight end kind of players across the middle that can find some soft openings and give Aaron more chances to score touchdowns. And that's the problem with this team. Like I was saying last night, we don't score enough touchdowns. Last night, our drive chart, right, we're going through is field goal, touchdown, then punt, touchdown, field goal, missed field goal, interception. The week before, we could barely score. We had a touchdown. We didn't score a touchdown against the Broncos. This team's not scoring enough touchdowns. Devante just helps you in that department.
Yes.
There's no other way to slice it, right? I mean, you got to score in this league to win.
Right. What did you ask me, Frankie, last night? You said, where are the explosive plays, Ryan? And I said,
yes,
it's been lacking. The Hail Mary was the biggest explosive play of the season for them last night. Devante can bring that element. You can hit him 20 to 30 yards downfield and get the explosive plays. And I do expect them to be able to open up the field for Garrett and Breece and even Conklin a little bit. This should open up the field with Devante Adams. Teams cannot ignore him. I understand he's 31 years old. He's definitely not the same receiver he was 2 or 3 years ago. There's no doubt in my mind. But he's still a top wide receiver in the NFL. I still think he is a top 15 talent. We'll see how this hamstring injury plays out. He's getting his physical done right now with the Jets at the Jets facility. So it's and I asked Kaz this also. Do you think he plays this weekend against the Steelers? He said there's probably going to be a package for him. I don't know if he plays the full 70 plays because he hasn't played football in a couple of weeks, but I fully expect Devante Adams to be suited up Sunday night against the Jets, Frankie.
Yeah, man, listen, this team needs a spark. Again, I don't really get this move from A to Z just because I think we have enough weapons to a degree on offense. I think this might take a few looks away from Braylon Allen, maybe a few looks away from Tyler Conklin or even Breece Hall. You just have to feed these people the rock, right? I mean, there's only one football, but this team needs a spark. So I do think he does play on Sunday Night Football, and I think it could give this team something to look forward to. Trust me, when Devante gets a big play on Sunday night or whatever game he gets his first big play, that's going to get the juices moving. This team needs juices flowing. We don't have anything right now. I was down in the dumps this morning. We've all been down in the dumps. This is a weird thing at this point because you kind of think the season's over. It's not over. The chances of making the playoffs are low, but they're not impossible. Kaz said he thinks they're going to make the playoffs. They could. The Packers started 2-5 last year and made the playoffs. Maybe Rodgers does something that his old team did. Maybe we get some mojo going. You can't blame a team for trying to win now when they are in win now. There's no other option here. I think this could go into next year too. So outside of looking at just this year, I think they're going to rework Adams' deal. They're going to have to due to his salary cap hit next year. And I think if this is something we look forward to next year, it's potentially something that just makes this team better. I don't like the offense still. I know we liked it a little bit more last night. You were a little bit more optimistic than I was, yes. Right? But 20 points when one touchdown came on a Hail Mary to me is not enough. I think Devante...
2 touchdowns. They had touchdowns last night. The Garrett Wilson touchdown everyone's forgetting about. Don't forget about that.
No, yeah, I'm saying one of those, out of the 20 points, one of those touchdowns to get to
was
20 was off
yes.
a Hail Mary. So to me, you scored 13 points last night, technically.
Hey, if Breece Hall jukes out Taylor Rapp at the end, that's another touchdown. Right? Again, there's a lot of what ifs, and I know that's been the theme of this season, right? The what ifs with this football team. What if Breece Hall breaks the tackle? What if Garrett Wilson doesn't drop that touchdown? What if the Jets don't have a holding penalty on the Braylon Allen touchdown? What if Greg Zuerlein hits a couple field goals? The Jets are 4-2 right now. There's always those what ifs. It always comes down in these football games to a couple plays. And now it's about how the Jets can flip the switch. Does this spark them, to your point? Does this provide that spark that this team needs? You know, I asked Kaz this, and this is what I want to ask you too. Does this upset Garrett Wilson, though? In the terms of, I understand you're the most talented, you're the most targeted wide receiver on the team. This is year 3 for you. You're eligible for a contract in the offseason, but you're now bringing in Aaron's best friend. And Allen Lazard was already getting a bunch of targets as is, and you saw Rodgers trust Lazard still. Garrett, is he going to be fighting with Lazard for those secondary targets? That's the real question.
Listen, I think it comes down to one thing. Was Garrett Wilson at all briefed on this trade? Did they go to him and say, hey, Garrett, Rodgers sat down with Garrett and said, hey, we're going to look at bringing in Davante. What do you think about this? If Garrett was on board with it, I don't think it will. If he wasn't on board with it, it could. But again, I think this is going to upset or take away from Allen Lazard's usage more than it is Garrett Wilson's usage. Garrett Wilson looked very good last night. I don't think the team's looking at him as not being that guy. But if you even look at last night, there were some plays that Garrett could have made that he didn't make also last night. And I think the team's just got to worry about winning. We don't have to please our number one receivers. We don't have to please our number one running back. We have to please our fans, and we have to do something for the win-loss record. We're not doing enough with Garrett Wilson, so maybe they have to look at in a different direction. But to your question, if he knew about it, I don't think it's going to do anything. If he didn't know about it, it could ruffle some feathers there with Garrett. You know how these receivers are. But I'll say this about Davante, to your point. People don't realize this. Since he's been in Vegas, he's been pretty damn good. His first year in Vegas, Davante had 100 catches for 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. Honestly, one of his best years in the NFL, maybe his best year if you take it. Yeah. Last year, he had 103 catches, more than he did the first year, for less yards, 1144 and 8 touchdowns. Still good. And he had a game this year where he had 110 yards on 8 catches. So Devante Adams can still play. Not old by any stretch of the imagination. Is he Devante of 2018? No, but he's 31 and he has another couple years in him. Just like this team, we have another couple years in this window. Maybe Aaron plays for another year or two. I know it sounds crazy, but
does sound crazy.
You think Devante? I'm not. Listen,
well,
this year is not why I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this for next year.
Well,
I'm thinking long term.
I think it's a rental unless they can rework the deal. I mean, they're going to have to rework the deal either way because he has $36.5 million non-guaranteed for 2025 and 2026. There's no chance the Jets are keeping that on the books. So you'd have to rework that deal if you wanted to keep him. Right now, it's a rental because it's not guaranteed after this year. Does he want to stay with the Jets if Aaron Rodgers decides to call it quits after this season? Those are all future me problems, as I like to call them for the Jets. Those are future me problems. Like,
gun to your head, is he here next year?
Devante?
Yeah.
I think it depends on what the quarterback situation is. If Rodgers calls retirement, I have seen no chance of Devante staying with the Jets.
He better not retire, though.
Dude, he's getting beat up. That's the other thing we haven't even talked about.
That's a good point.
He's getting beat up. This ain't going to fix the offensive line. You have brought up some great points about Tyron Smith this season. He and Kaz even talked about it. He goes, he is not having a good season right now. And there's a reason why a lot of teams did not go in and sign the all pro offensive tackle. He's having a rough year, man. It's probably his worst year he's had in probably like a decade.
Yeah.
He's given up 4 sacks. Should have been 5 last night for a stupid roughing the passer call that shouldn't have been called, Like,
look at his deal. When I saw Tyron
Smith's $6 million deal, that's what Kaz talked about. Like, no one wanted to sign him for that.
It's a heavily incentivized deal. He gets paid per game that he plays. The injury concern with him is legit. He's got a bad lower back. That's why you see him. He can't bend, and he doesn't do that extra because he doesn't want to not play and get paid. So he's playing at 50% of what he was, which to me is fine, honestly. I know fans don't want to hear that. We didn't have another option at left tackle. Now we might with the rookie in Olu if you want to see what's there. I don't think you're going to get much better value, though, at this point. And I don't think he's the only problem on the O-line. I think our right tackle, Morgan Moses, last night was a problem. I think AVT's been hit or miss. I think Tippmann's been hit or miss.
AVT's definitely been hit or miss, I would agree. Simpson's been a stud for us all year long. I think Moses helped you out a little bit considering how much he was banged up and playing hurt last night. He still played better than what Olu was giving you at right tackle. And you were able to run the ball more effectively, clearly, with Moses than Olu. It comes down to a couple things for this Jets team, right? It's the little details. Can you flip those plays that are going not in your favor for your favor? Can Aaron effectively bring Davante into this offense and incorporate him? It seems like Mike Williams and Aaron just aren't on the same page whatsoever. Considering the interception last night, Mike Williams slips. He probably ran the wrong route too, because I saw Dan Orlovsky's breakdown. It was a great breakdown. Rodgers talked about it last night in the postgame. And you also had the Vikings play where Rodgers expected Mike Williams to not run that route as either on the last interception. So Davante fixes that, right? But it shouldn't come down to these last second or last minute drives for the Jets. Like you want more effective offense. You want to be able to put up 30 points and be like, now tell your defense to go hunt and get better. That's the other thing about this too, right? So Woody Johnson makes the trade for Devante Adams, and now we get word that even after yesterday, Hassan Reddick, that we're like, oh, maybe the Jets were able to bring him into the building and play the rest of the season. Now the Jets granted it permission to go seek a trade. I think Woody was only willing to pay one salary the rest of this year, and he's like, Devante, I'll go for it. Hassan, see you later, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. I said that too. I think we were talking about that last night, or maybe we were talking about it before the game. Yeah, Woody's not going to honor both of those guys' requests or what this team wants to do ideally. And I think the way Hassan Reddick played this whole situation out, it's rubbing Joe Douglas probably the wrong way by all stretches of the imagination there. Like, he does not want anything to do with Hassan. So he's like, get out of here. Drew Rosenhaus tried to patch it up last night. Didn't work. Now it's like, get out, honestly. And I don't know. I mean, to ask you this question, because we've been discussing this in Jetland, who would you rather have in a perfect world? Would you rather have Devante Adams or Hassan Reddick if you had to pick one or the other?
Oh, Devante Adams.
Yeah, I probably would too. But again, we have a defensive line issue. If we're talking about a real issue on this team, I don't think Hassan fixes the run defense per se, but we got to get more bodies up front, man.
They miss John Franklin Myers. I think so. I talked to Kaz about.
You're right.
I talked about this with Kaz, and Kaz said he talked to a lot of players in the locker room. When the trade happened for Reddick, the Jets defense was like, all right, this is awesome. We got a loaded defensive line. We got Jermaine, John Franklin Myers, Quinnen, and Reddick. That should be an insane defensive line. Then the Jets trade John Franklin Myers for nothing in return. The return made no sense. And a lot of the Jets players were like, wait, why did we get rid of John Franklin Myers? Like that's one of our heartbeat of our defensive line here, pretty much. He's great against the run. He gave you some sack production, and he was a force, and he was a part of that defensive line rotation. They're missing him. They're missing him, and that's affecting this run defense tremendously.
Yeah, our DNs really don't give us anything against the run. Our defensive tackles don't give us anything against the run. Our DNs don't do anything in the trenches. At least JFM was willing to get down there and at least be a body. I don't know. I was thinking when the JFM thing happened, I thought it may have been connected to the Zach Wilson deal in some way. I know there were two separate deals, but I was thinking you do the deal with Zach. Maybe we also did a JFM deal in another, situation, but with the same team as like, all right, we'll do you a little bit of a favor with Zach, take on JFM too, because we don't want to pay the guy. I thought there might have been something there, although that's not reported. That's just my assumption because the deals happen within a day of each other to the Broncos, obviously. But yeah, we're missing JFM. And listen, I do think, and I'm going to give Joe Douglas a day or two to fix this, a day or two. I think we're going to bring in a big body defensive tackle in the next 48 hours somewhere. I don't know, maybe off a practice squad. This team is crazy if they go into next week against Pittsburgh with this defensive line. They're going to run the read option down our throat next week. And Najee Harris had his best game of the season, and you're probably faster than Najee Harris, but that dude will dice our behinds up next week with this D-line. I'm telling you, last night, Rye, I haven't seen the all-22. This D-line starts 2 to 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage every damn time. Outside of Quinnen, they cannot establish anything up front. There's nothing. They're not keeping their gaps. They are getting moved.
It's part of the defensive. I know we're getting off topic here because this should be all about Devante Adams, but we need to discuss this as well because the defense is an issue. And Devante does not address this defensive issue. The Jets can't stop the run. It's plain and simple. And teams are going to recognize this. They're going to scheme it up. And like you said, would not be shocked when Justin Fields and Najee Harris are running read options, Jalen Warren running read options, and they're just going to try and stuff it down your throat because they know you can't stop it. And they'll control the ball and they'll control the clock. And they'll tell you, okay, you got Devante Adams? Cool. He's going to watch on the sideline because he ain't going to be playing much today because we're going to run the ball all night. So it's on the Jets defense. But ultimately, Frankie, this is an all-in move, right? Devante Adams.
Definitely.
The pressure and the sight, the aim, like down barrel, are all going to be focused on number 8. It's all on you, buddy. It is. There's no more Robert Saleh shield. There's no more Nathaniel Hackett shield. And now you have all of your weapons and all your toys. They've gone all in for you, bud. It's on you to perform now. You got to win some football games.
I had somebody tell me, I'm not going to say who, not this big person, but I had someone who's in Green Bay tell me, you all, I don't believe this, but he told me you all are going to hate Aaron when this is all done. He goes to what you're saying. He goes, when this is all done, he's going to put all the eyeballs on him, what you're saying. And when it's all over, you can't stand them. You guys love him now, but it's starting to change a little bit. He goes, you guys aren't going to be able to stand him when it's all said and done. But listen, Devante helps us score points. That's it. We have to score more than the other team to win. That's football. We sometimes lose sight of that simple thing. It's like what Yogi Berra used to say, right? Like, you win if you score more than the other team. Like, it's stupid, but it's something that we just don't understand a lot as fans. We try to look at this or that. I do, the defensive line, blah, blah, blah. No, score more than the other team, and Devante Adams will help you score more than the other team. And it's basically that simple. So I like the move. I like the conditions, too, to what you were saying. It's a conditional third that can turn into a 2 if he's, first or second team All-Pro, and he's playing in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl. If he does one, he does the other, right? Isn't that?
Well, if say he's hurt and he can't make the roster for the AFC Championship game, but he's in the Super Bowl 2 weeks later, then yeah.
I like those conditions.
Yeah, listen, if we're in that situation, let me tell you something right now. If Devante Adams is a first team or second team All-Pro, the Jets are in the playoffs. And if the Jets are in the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl, I am totally okay with giving up a second-round pick because I don't care at that point.
And he's coming here kind of late, too. Like, for him to, let's just say technically, for him to end up being a first or second team All-Pro with his numbers now, I mean,
it'd be insane. He'd
have to go off like crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, ultimately, Frankie, prediction time. Are the Jets going to win this weekend against Pittsburgh? Like, it's a must-win. Like, there's no doubt about it. It is a must-win for this Jets football team.
Ryan, we are going to beat the heck out of them. We are going to put the league back on notice, baby. Sunday night, we're going to Pennsylvania. We are going to toss them all over the place. 31-10. We're going to be sleeping at halftime. I'm not going to watch the second half. I'll be on for the post game, but I'm going to be out. I'll wake up when the game's over because I don't need to watch the third and fourth quarter. No, being serious, I think we're going to win. This team, things were getting in motion. Now, do I think they're going to make the playoffs? I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm going to reserve the right for my playoff assessment prediction.
It's not a tough AFC right now. Like, if you look at the rest of the AFC right now,
yeah.
Tell me. So again, the Baltimore Ravens look legit. You now have a real test against the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you beat them, you have that tiebreaker over them, right? Are the Colts going to make the playoffs? They don't know what their quarterback situation. They keep flipping back between Joe Flacco and Anthony and Richardson, right? You know what are they? They're 3-3. The Chargers 3-2. Herbert's banged up. Like, they run the ball well. Jim Harbaugh. The Broncos, we lost to the Broncos. That's going to probably bite you in the ass at the end. But again, the Dolphins, what are they? The Bengals, 2-4 as well, just like you. It's wide open.
Yeah, the Colts right now are the 7 seed. I'm looking 3-3. The only reason I'm a little bit not overly, I don't know. I'm not there yet with saying that they could is just due to the win-loss and due to what what history tells you and the stats behind it. 224 teams have started 2-4. Only 24 have made the playoffs. So like just based on that, I'm always a numbers person. Like how the numbers are today with these standings might not be what they are in 5 weeks.
All right, here's a hypothetical for you. Jets beat the Steelers, but it's not a blowout. It's a close game. They win like 27-20, right? They go to 3-4. Then they go up to New England. That's a win, right? That's a win. Is it a win? All right, cool.
Yeah,
making sure
it better be, yeah.
4-4 going up against the Houston Texans Thursday night on Halloween.
That's the game.
You signing up for that? Are you signing up for that?
Of course, yes. Now, am I signing up to go 2-1? Probably. Well,
in that 3-game stretch.
Yeah, I might sign up to go 2-1. But they have to definitely go 2-1. And I think Pittsburgh, they have to win that game. You just have to. And it's 2 road games in a row. But that Texans game, and then it starts to open up a little bit for us. You have the Cardinals, the Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins, Jaguars, Rams. I don't know. If we got one of these, one of these wins.
I don't know, Jim.
Oh, man.
This Jets team, they never stop creating news for us. They're the lovable losers. We don't know why we keep rooting for this franchise, but we do because we're fanatics. We're crazy people.
The 10:15 a.m. Breaking news drop.
2 Tuesdays in a row, man.
Yep.
Woody Johnson knows what he's doing. Frankie, any final thoughts about the Jets trading for Davante Adams here and finally reuniting it with Aaron Rodgers?
Listen, my final thoughts are this. You can look at life in 2 ways. You could look at all the negatives. You could look at the positives. Look at the positives here and just look at the positives. That's it. Don't worry about the negatives. We lost. It's over. The team's better with Devante Adams. Hopefully, they can score more points than their opponents, which they're struggling to do every week. That's it. And he helps you do that. Period. End of story.
Listen, Aaron said in the offseason, I look forward to playing with Devante again. And he's playing with him again now. He got his wish. They're all in on Aaron Rodgers. They're all in on Davante Adams. They're all in on Alan Lazard. They're all in on this offense.
They're not on Nate Hackett, though. Nate Hackett's not calling plays anymore, unfortunately.
My man is up in the booth with just a headset on right there. I don't even think he's connected into anything. I think he just got the headset on for him.
He's listening to Pink Floyd up there, you know?
Listen, here's my final thoughts. Aaron Rodgers, it's all on you, buddy. You wanted to come to New York. You wanted to be here with the Jets. You wanted the pressure of New York. You wanted the media. You wanted the attention. You wanted to go out on your swan song and win a Super Bowl and bring a Super Bowl to New York, to this dysfunctional franchise with a dysfunctional Ambassador Johnson owner, with a GM that probably isn't as good as we think he is, with a head coach that was a big-time cheerleader and ultimately could not win the games when it came to the end. You brought in your offensive coordinator that you love and you're best friends with. You brought in your wide receivers in Cobb and Lazard and your offensive tackles and Billy Turner. And you brought in Mike Williams and you brought in Tyron Smith and you brought in now Devante Adams. You wanted to play with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall because you said those guys are special. One guy who could have won Rookie of the Year and one guy who did win Rookie of the Year, and Sauce Gardner who did win Defensive Rookie of the Year. You wanted to play with this defense as a top 5 defense. You've gotten all of it. Now is the time to put up or shut up. No more close games. Or we can have close games, but now it's time for you to go to the final drive and go win some football games. Because the Jets fans are tired of this. I saw it in Frankie's eyes. I saw it on the comments everywhere on social media. We are tired of losing football games. Go out there and win. You have all the pieces and all the things you can do to win football games. Now it's on you. How are you going to finish off your career? And are you going to go off into the sunset? This is the last move the Jets are going to make for you also, ultimately, in support of what you want to win. That's my final thought, Frankie.
Perfectly said, man. Perfectly said. It's
All
put
right,
up
man.
or shut up time for everybody there, especially 8. You're right.
Especially 8. All eyeballs are on him. Frankie, that's Gangswell here, Emergency Show. We appreciate you, brother, for joining me as always. And this franchise is never a dull moment for us. We're looking forward to see how it goes Sunday night, where me and you are going to be breaking this all down, and we'll see. I can't stop laughing at what's going to happen now.
If Devante Adams scores a touchdown, I'm going to find a way to get a Devante Adams jersey. So I'm going to probably have one here. And if he does score, I'll be wearing it on the show. I'm ordering one right now. So my first jersey in years.
That's the Gangs All Here Emergency Show. We thank you all fans for tuning in and watching. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. Hit that like and go follow the U Stadium account over there on Twitter as well. Those guys are crushing it. They're going to be covering all this throughout the week. You know it. We'll be covering this.